Welcome back to episode 13 of The Next Woman Up, a Winsidr podcast. I'm Michael Waterloo, joined as always by my co-host Melissa Treebwasser. And Melissa, it is episode 13. That's usually an unlucky number, but I'm feeling pretty damn lucky right now because we have Unrivaled on the screen. We're recording this Monday night, March 2nd. We have conference tournaments coming up here. March Madness is about 2 weeks away. Selection Sunday, 13 days away. It is just a great time as we loop full circle back on that number 13.
Yeah, I mean, don't talk to a teacher about their calendar in March because I just realized before we jumped on the recording that I thought everything went back to back and didn't realize there was a week gap. So as I'm trying to figure out, how I'm going to be following my Horned Frogs to the Sweet 16, I'm really, really hoping that they get placed in that Fort Worth bracket. So selection committee, if you're listening, please do your girl a solid and just keep the Horned Frogs home. Just keep them in that Fort Worth bracket. Make my life a little bit easier. I only have so many days off a year, and this is not a good time to be taking them as a high school teacher. So, but I will be following the Frogs. I'm just going to throw that out that I will be with TCU.
You will be no matter what, and I have no doubt that you're going to be either there following along with the Big 12 tournament in person, if not from afar. And I'll be there for the ACC tournament this weekend as well. So we will have full coverage there. But before we can cover those games, we have to look at the tournaments that are upcoming. And Melissa, we're going to start by looking at the regular season conference champs for the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the SEC. We're looking at the winners and also a surprise team from each. And since I'll be at that ACC tournament, I hope you don't mind if I just kick it off.
Yeah, do it.
So we saw, despite UNC beating Duke on the final day of the regular season, Duke is the ACC champs after that very, very slow, I believe 6-6 start it was underneath Kara Lawson. After the high expectations, they went on to win, I think it was 15 straight games before losing 2, ended up going 16-2 over their last 18 games. So Duke is the regular season winner with a surprise team here listed as Louisville. And we know Jeff Waltz. We know what it can do. We dating back to one of our first episodes in that game against South Carolina with Don Staley. So very, very interesting conference this year that I feel like didn't really get as much talk because of how dominant SEC was again, because of the Big 10, the Big 12, what UConn does in the Big East. Seems like sometimes the ACC is the forgotten conference, but they have quite a few teams that are looking to make some noise come the postseason in March Madness. So beside those two teams, is there any other team that really stood out to you as being surprising?
Well, I almost think you could put Duke as the surprise team because of how they started, right? And the way that we were talking about them back in November and December. And so for them to really galvanize and come together and Kara Lawson just to get that team playing its best basketball when it mattered the most. Obviously, a couple slips here and there towards the end of the season, but props to Duke. I think they're going to be good. I think UNC, obviously matchup dependent, can win some games. They've been a dangerous team at times. They just haven't been super consistent. But if I know anybody's going to be given great locker room talks in that locker room, it is Nyla Harris of UNC, as we all got to learn last week when she was on the show with us. But I really am just impressed with Louisville when you look at all of the veteran leadership that they lost a season ago, and just to bounce back and look like they never missed a step. I think it's pretty impressive what Jeff Walz continues to do with that program year in and year out. They are right in the mix for the ACC championship, and just continue to be one of those teams that you do not want to play at any point in the season, and you certainly don't want to find on your side of the bracket in March Madness.
No, you definitely don't. You mentioned Louisville. That was Nyla Harris's former school, now at UNC. And before we move on to the next conference, I meant to mention this at the very top. We do have a special guest today. As always, we always try to have somebody on here for you. And we're going to be getting to her conference very shortly, the Big 10. And that is Grace VanSlooten, the senior out of Michigan State. She will be swinging by later on this episode for an interview. So be sure to stick around and listen to her. But before we get to her conference, Melissa, you know what time it is. Big 12 time. Tell me about the winner of that conference, a team that you may be a fan of, you may not be, I don't really know yet, and also a surprise team that stood out to you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Horned Frogs were preseason favorites to win it. They got it done again after a little bit of a struggle, a rough patch, losing games at Utah, at Colorado, and at Texas Tech. They lost 2 games a season ago, just 3 in conference play this year, but really seemed to find their groove down in Waco here at the beginning of the month, a couple weeks ago, I guess. And it was really fun to see this team start to click. And I was there in Fort Worth yesterday when they clinched the outright title. It could have been a shared title had they lost that game. And 6,300 people, which Scholmeyer Arena is a very small arena. That is basically a capacity crowd. For those that don't know, 6,300 people showing up, great atmosphere, great environment. The fan base was super engaged. When I went to the TCU Baylor game a year ago in Fort Worth, it was probably 60-40 Horned Frogs to Bears. It was probably 80-20 yesterday. And so it's been really cool to see the community rally around this program that's been so good and so consistent. So yeah, back to back Big 12 championships for Mark Campbell and TCU women's basketball. They go through Baylor both times to get it done. It comes down to the final game of the regular season each of the last 2 years against the Baylor Bears in Waco a season ago in Fort Worth this year. And it's pretty fun to see how quickly that program has changed. 10 new players. But Marcia Suarez was awesome, Big 12 Player of the Week this week. Olivia Miles was Olivia Miles. And they got some really great performances by Taylor Bigby and Kennedy Basham to take it home. So really proud of my Horned Frogs, of course, really proud of that team as someone who's been with them every step of the way here for the last several years. It's been awesome to see the success. I can't wait to watch them try to go get another tournament championship this weekend in Kansas City, weather dependent, because it looks like we're getting stormed. So, but all that being said, had they lost that game, we would have been looking at a three-way tie for a Big 12 title, and one of those teams would have been West Virginia. And when you look at that program and what it's been consistently good and often made a good run in March. But I don't think this was a year where people were looking at the Mountaineers as a real player. And they are just a really tough, really physical team. They make timely shots, and they make it absolutely hell on your offense. I watched them really put TCU through the grinder twice this year. And so I think the Mountaineers are awesome. I think they're really good. I love the way that they play. I love the way that they're coached. And I won't be shocked if they win a tournament title this weekend up in Kansas City whatsoever. It would not surprise me one bit. They're right on that verge of potentially being in the top 16, probably an uphill battle to get there. But they certainly deserve to be in that next group of seedings and have an opportunity to play deep into March.
Yeah, they absolutely do. You're talking about WVU after JJ Quinterly left last year.
Mm-hmm.
She was so explosive. You obviously know seeing her down in
Yeah.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Just the
Love
pure
JJ.
bucket. So being able to kind of recover and come back and put forth that kind of season was really, really big. And you all look up and down this Big 12 table, and it's just loaded with teams who had really good years, but kind of surprising years too. Like we think of Texas Tech and
Yeah.
Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is just their offense can compete with anybody. Colorado kind of had a surprising season, seeing where they finished their sixth in the regular season, I believe, maybe fifth. And then a couple other surprises to me, though, are just seeing where Iowa State landed after their very hot start. And that kind of changed with, after our conversation
Addie
with Talia
Brown.
Scott
Yeah.
and just,
Yeah.
yeah, the way that they were able to kind of defend Audie Crooks there and figure out the way to go about her defensively with her drop coverage, and also just double and say good luck to Jada Williams. Go ahead and make that shot.
Yeah.
And also another surprise to me is just Kansas State. How bad they were. Obviously, they lost Serena Sundell. Obviously, they lost Aoki Lee, but I thought they'd be a little bit better still. But it is a very, very tough conference. So I'm excited for you to be able to go out there and watch them, just like I have been excited all year to keep tabs on the Big Ten, because we know that is where my Oregon Ducks reside and play. Probably aren't going to do much in the tournament, but that's okay. They're going to be heading to March Madness. I feel confident. I feel comfortable. And maybe I have a little note later about where I think they'll actually finish in the Big Ten tournament. I'm biased. I'm optimistic. Call me whatever you want. I'll be a homer. Damn it, it's fine. But of course, UCLA ran the table in the Big Ten. Did not lose at all. Completely undefeated. No surprise at all. That's what we expected. Whenever you have five players who are arguably first round talents, more than likely a couple of those are going to slip into the second round. But just absolutely loaded with Gianna Neepkins, friend of the program, as well as Lauren Betts, Gabby Jaquez, and Kiki Rice, too, just kind of leading the way for them. So it was just a fantastic season for them. No surprise there, but the surprise team was Minnesota. Minnesota, just, you don't think of basketball success whenever you think of Minnesota. So to me, very, very surprising the job that Coach Dawn has done out there for them. What stood out to me the most is in an era of the transfer portal, she just said, no, we're just going to run it back, because she stuck with her same five starters all season last year. This season, four of their starters have played all regular season games for them. So she just kind of sticks with them and sticks with them and sticks with them. The one thing that they really struggle with that I think is going to show up for them in both tournaments is their free throw percentage. They're shooting less than 75% as a team, with only Mara Brown shooting 91.7%. The rest of them are just pretty dreadful, just to be honest. And four of his losses is shot 70% or less from the line. I've been doing a lot of prep for March Madness, if you can't say
Yeah,
tell.
I
So
can tell. Yeah.
I've been looking at some of my notes that I'm doing for the Athletics. So be sure to check that out too, and show me some love so I can keep doing that every year. I really, really enjoy it. But yeah, the Big Ten has been a very, very fun conference again, loaded. We saw that last game coming down to Ohio State and Michigan State for kind of seeding there, jockeying it out, but Ohio State ended up taking them down. So a lot of really good basketball. Probably with my favorite team to watch, the Michigan Wolverines. Like I texted you earlier this week, I just said, you know what? I don't even care. I'm saying it. This is my favorite team to watch right now. I absolutely love the way that they play. And yeah, I don't know how much you've gotten to watch the Big Ten this year, but is there any teams I haven't covered that have really stood out to you this year?
Well, I think, we'd be remiss not to mention Michigan State. We touched on it a little bit, but
Mm,
that's a team too that obviously has a lot of talent, can play an inside out game, and I think is good. We don't get a ton of Big Ten basketball down here in Texas, but I've gotten to watch quite a bit, and they've obviously had the national stage. I just want to say, as a whole, the Big Ten from top to bottom has really surprised me how good that conference has been, the depth that they have. I mean, when you look at, USC has kind of been up and down, obviously, without Juju, but UCLA is going to be probably the odds on title favorite by the time we get to March Madness. Maryland is a team that's been hanging around and looks like they may be a host seed. Minnesota, Ohio State, who I obviously watched quite a bit of leading up to that TCU game, that they lost, the fact that they lost to Ohio State on a neutral site, and then Iowa also, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and their lofty perch in the top 16 committee rankings. But yeah, I mean, this is a conference that's going to put a ton of teams in the tournament, and I normally would say I'm very anti power conference bias, especially when it comes to the SEC and the Big Ten. But I think it's pretty inarguable at this point that the Big Ten is the most loaded conference in the country and has a ton of depth. I think the Big 12 is not nearly as respected as it should be in that regard, but you're not going to see a lot of super elite teams. There's not going to be a lot of teams that are favored to make it to the Elite Eight. You could see a lot of Big Ten teams playing in that second weekend for sure. And I'd be shocked if I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if the national championship comes out of the Big Ten this year too in women's basketball.
be so nice to have it in Eugene. It is going to be wonderful for everybody there. We cannot wait for this national champion. Oregon Ducks, we're always going to hold out hope. But no, like you said, I was waiting to see if you touched on Iowa or not, because yeah, we're definitely going to talk about them as
Yeah, I
well as
texted you about
Washington.
Iowa
Yeah,
earlier this week too, a little bit, but it's fine. It's fine. I don't want to anger the Iowa fans, but we're going to talk about it.
we will. We know those are anyway. Yeah, we don't want to talk about our fans right now, but we're going to talk about Washington because Avery Howe was another player that we mentioned the Audie Crooks stat line of the week a few weeks ago. Wanted to shout out her and the job that the Huskies have done there too. And as loaded as the Big Ten is, we know the basketball runs through the Southeast Conference. So Melissa, take us through the SEC regular season winner and any surprises for you.
Yeah, and again, when you look at the SEC, you talk about the Big Ten and their depth. There's obviously a lot of really top talented teams in the SEC as well, and you're going to see a loaded bracket with those programs. Right now, you're looking at one, two, three, four, five teams in the top 16. That's pretty strong. That's pretty good depth. I think the bottom of the SEC is probably a little bit worse than the bottom of the Big Ten, but it's not that far off.
Mm-hmm.
And by saying worse, I just mean, not an elite, top 30 program, because it seems like those conferences don't have a lot of holes. Unlike the SEC for football, but that's neither here nor there. But anyways, South Carolina, not really a surprising winner of the regular season, although they were certainly challenged. Texas played really good basketball. Oklahoma got hot at the right time. LSU, obviously, but at the end of the day, most of the time it was South Carolina asserting themselves again, reminding you that this is the modern dynasty, one of the two modern dynasties we really have in this sport, and a program that is not going to let you walk through it. But man, like Vandy, there's not probably a bigger surprise in women's basketball this year than Vanderbilt. Like, we all knew Michaela Blakes was really, really good a season ago. I don't think anybody expected this program to elevate to the heights that it has so quickly. And it's going to come down to them in Texas. This might be one of the rare conference tournaments where being there is something really significantly on the line for the teams, because I think that, Texas and Vandy, whichever one makes it farther, is probably the one that's going to get that fourth number one overall seed. And if you had told me at the beginning of the season that Vanderbilt was going to be in play play to be a number one overall seed, I would have called you absolutely insane. And yeah, here we are. In a year where it looked like for so long we had a very clearly defined top four. All of a sudden, the Commodores come rolling in behind an absolute super duper star player of the year candidate to shake everything up a little bit. So I mean, I think they've been exposed just a tiny little bit here down the stretch. They've had some close games, they've had some difficult losses, but at the end of the day, this is a well coached team that plays with a ton of confidence, and they're going to be tough to beat.
They really will. And you mentioned Michaela Blake's. Like, we know she's a bucket. She's a star, one of the best players in the entire country. But she's not the only one either. You look at Aubrey Galvin, just the job that the freshman has done, 5.9 assists per game, 12.9 points, just coming in and really plays above her year. She looks like a third year
Freshman,
junior out there, the
crazy.
way she plays. Yeah. And they have four total players who average double figures. It's going to be interesting for Vandy since they don't really have a traditional big to see what happens whenever they kind of get matched up against a team that is able to dominate inside the paint. But whenever you have Michaela Blake's, like, it's kind of like, for me, not to get into the NBA, but if you have Giannis, if you have Luca, if you have LeBron, you feel good about making a run in the playoffs, and that's how I
Unless
kind
you
of how I
have
feel with
Luca
Vandy.
and LeBron, then you don't feel good about making a run in the class. Apparently,
Yeah,
that's too
suck
much.
it,
Yeah.
Lakers. Suck it, Lakers. I hate you, Lakers. No more. All right. But yes, sorry, I am a Laker hater, but I do want to mention some other teams in there. Tennessee, obviously, we've well covered their up and down season, the tumultuous season they had. They actually had Vandy on the ropes a little bit in that game in the first half on Sunday in the season finale. Georgia has been a surprising team also out of the SEC. Kentucky has played okay. We love Clara Strack, so that's fantastic. And I also want to mention that Auburn finished the season 14-16. Whenever the Oregon Ducks went into Auburn, they were 8-0. So ever since then, they went 6-16. The curse of the Ducks. Way to go, Oregon.
Love
So
to see
yeah,
it. Love to see
yeah,
it.
absolutely love to see it. Love it. That's when we chatted with our friend Mia Jacobs, who was our first guest here on The Next Woman Up. Speaking guests, don't forget we have Grace VanSlooten from Michigan State joining us later on. We're going to get into some tournament picks. Before we do, we have to, like we have all season long, show the mid majors some love. So we're going to go through these pretty quickly here. We can start. I'll start with the A10 in the Big East. Rhode Island was your champion, and the surprising team was actually, well, Rhode Island. It's going to be interesting. We'll talk about it if we're going to see two A10 teams come out of there. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, depending on the performance of Richmond versus Rhode Island, their final matchup of the season. We know that Richmond came out and walloped Rhode Island in a big way, I believe by 20 plus points. Friend of the show, Maggie Dugan, showed out as always. So, yeah, Rhode Island, though, you have to give them credit. They've been fantastic all season long. I really hope we see both those programs in there because they're both teams who can compete, and it's just really good for basketball to be able to see that. And the Big East, big surprise here. Your champion was UConn.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming at all,
Yeah.
and I miss the Big East of old, is all I'm going to say there. But we did have a surprise team, Villanova. They were preseason number 4 in the Big East, and they put together quite the resume, and they're going to be dancing in March. And if you told anybody that before the season, they'd say, only way that's happening is if they take down UConn in the Big East title game. So shout out to Villanova, Philly represent, way to go. So yeah, some mid-major love there. Melissa, what do you have for a few other mid-major conferences?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to the West Coast, the best coast, of course. Shout out to Loyola Marymount winning the regular season, the West Coast Conference. That I almost went to LMU. My sister's an LMU alum, so I would love to see them win the conference tournament. Obviously, going to be a one bid league, but they certainly have the chance. They played really good basketball, and if you're familiar with basketball history, there's a pretty good stories here with the LMU used to be an absolute powerhouse on the men's side, so it'd be fun to have them in the tournament and hear the stories, even though it'd be the women's game, hear the stories of Hank Gathers and what that program meant back in the day and how they changed basketball with the up-tempo system that they ran. The surprise team, unfortunately, on the negative side is Oregon State, picked to win the conference, but that poor program has been through so, I know you're happy about that, but they have been through so much these last few years and just had to turn over their roster so many times. So I'm looking forward to the revival of the Pac-12 and maybe an opportunity for some Oregon State of old. And then on the Mountain West Conference side, San Diego State, their men's team has been pretty much a stalwart here the last few years in the conference tournament, but the women have not had a lot of opportunities to get that national stage. So congratulations to them. Hopefully they can make the conference tournament or win the conference tourney and make the big dance as well. And then UNLV was a program that I think a lot of people thought would be a pretty have a solid season, be a pretty big powerhouse and in a kind of a lock to make March Madness, and they really struggled down the stretch. So they're going to have to win the conference tournament in order to go dancing here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they definitely will. And I'm glad you shout out Loyola Marymount and said about the history of the game because it's a great time that we can plug our interview that we had last week with Emma Bachelari as well as Jordan Robinson, the authors of the forthcoming book, Court Queens, The History of Women's Basketball, March 17th. No, we are not paid sponsors for this. We just appreciate people who appreciate the game like we do. And then real quick, we'll look at the MAC. Miami of Ohio was the champion of the league, with the surprise team being UMass. And I have quite a few friends who are UMass alumni who are just like, we're done. We just need to cancel every single sport here. I am sick of being a UMass fan. And you saw again, just a very, very disappointing season. They just kind of fell off as it went on. So disappointing stuff from the MAC. Maybe they can make a run here for UMass, but it looks like it's going to be Miami, Ohio's to take home. So we talked about those conferences the regular season. Melissa, we're going to go through here and we're going to look at five of them, not all of them, but five of them. The Power Four, of course, and because UConn is in the Big East, we will look at the Big East first. So, Melissa, I'm going to go through and name a conference, say the two teams I think who are going to be at the end and the winner, and I want you to let me know if you
Okay.
agree with me or you disagree with me.
I like it.
All right. And just let everybody know, we did not plan this. I came up with that off of the cuff because I am the last professional broadcaster. So, Melissa, we're going to start in the Big East. And I have UConn winning. No, I'm not going to break my own rules already. I have UConn versus Villanova, UConn winning. Do you disagree?
Yep. Yeah, I don't think there'll be any upsets. UConn has a chance to put together an undefeated string to string season, a regular or conference season. I don't think there's any chance they drop a game in the tournament.
Me either. I think it's going to be just cakewalk until they get to until they get to March Madness, and then that's where the real fun begins. But shout out to them for scheduling real opponents throughout the year. It's
Yeah,
been great to
absolutely.
see.
Absolutely.
They know what their conference, they know who they are, so that's fine. All right, we're going to go to the ACC, which is down here right outside of Atlanta in Duluth, Georgia. I will be there Saturday and Sunday for the semis and the championship game. I can't be there every day. I'm so sorry, but I have it being. This is one I struggled with a bunch, but it was twice very nice. And I want to run it back a third time. I'm saying Duke versus UNC, and I am going to have UNC winning it, upsetting Duke in the finals. I almost had Notre Dame make it to the finals. I'm just going to tell you
Oh,
that. But I'm going to
wow.
say UNC versus Duke with UNC winning. Do you agree or disagree?
I will say this. When you first brought up this, I was thinking I'm definitely going to pick Duke to get upset in the ACC tournament, not because I don't think I think they've done what they need to do at this point, and there's not a lot at stake for them, and so a lot of these teams are going to dial it back just a little bit because they can't really change their fortunes, in my opinion. I think Duke is one of those teams. So if you're going to say UNC is going to meet them in the championship game, I too am going to go with the UNC upset, and I'm going to say big game from Nyla Harris is what gets it done.
I love it. Yes, she pops off the screen, as we know. All right, Big Ten. All right. First, I'm not going to say who my winner is. I'm going to say the Oregon wins two games and beats Maryland.
Okay.
It upsets them.
Okay.
I'm standing on that, and then they'll lose, and that's fine. But I'm going to say in the finals, UCLA beats Michigan. Agree or disagree?
I like that pick. I think Michigan, they're one of those teams that so much of what they do is predicated on their ability to shoot, but what we've seen is they can win other games other
Mm-hmm.
ways this year. And so I do think they're going to be a tough out in the conference tournament, just like I think they're going to be a really tough out in March. A couple brackets have had them match up with TCU, and I don't love that. I'm going to be really honest, don't love it. But I, yeah, I think it's really going to be hard to pick against UCLA the way that they're playing right now, and it feels like a team full of old women who are mature and focused. And I think that can be an issue in those tournaments when you're playing back to back to back days. And I think that's where, though, as an old woman myself, that age catches up to you when it comes to recovery. I think that their experience is going to be what really pushes them over the edge. And I think they're here to make a statement, not just as a number one seed, but the number one overall seed. I think that's what they're going for. And I think if they win the conference tournament, it's going to be really hard to deny them that. UConn's resume obviously is exceptional, but UCLA going through a Big Ten conference, winning the regular season, going through the Big Ten conference tournament, in my mind, they would be deserving of the number one overall seed, and it would be really, really hard to keep them out of that if they handle their business this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely will be. It would be very interesting too to see a team full with super seniors, or not super seniors, just seniors, and then a team
They
filled
are
with
super
super
people.
sophomores. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It just kind of that juxtaposition between the two, and the David versus Goliath. The announcers will have all the storylines to go kind of go along with that. All right, we're going to swerve and we're going to go with the SEC first, and we're going to leave the Big 12 for last. So the SEC, I have Texas versus South Carolina. Hook 'em horns to take it home.
Okay. I mean, again, you talk just like we talked about with the Big Ten. This Texas team has something to play for. They want to be one of those number four overall seeds. They have that position, but they're hanging on by a thread, it appears, over Vanderbilt. Texas is, I mean, ever since I sung their praises and thought that they told people on the show that I thought they were national championship contenders, they've really gone through the ringer a little bit. But once again, you look at the veterans that they have, the way that they play, that style is not beneficial in a back-to-back-to-back environment if you're playing 94 feet. And so you could wear them out, but it seems like their depth is starting to develop. They've got people back healthy. They're getting people back in shape. And so I like your pick. Think South Carolina is going to win it. I think
Very
South
fair.
Carolina is going to win it. I want to pick Texas. Friend of the program, Jordan Lee as well. I want to pick Texas, but I just think that the way that they play is going to be hard for them to do 3 consecutive days, and I think South Carolina is ultimately going to take it.
I think that's fair. I keep thinking back to that first matchup when Roy Harmon hit the game-winning floater, and it was just kind of like I see it replaying in my head. It's just kind of like, oh, here comes Mrs. March. Like we can talk
Yeah,
about Roy Harmon now, even though Haley Van Lith has only been gone for a little bit, so that's okay. She still holds that
she's still here
title.
in my heart.
She is, and she's somewhere in the unraveled, even though they won't let her play for some reason. But
I just have so many questions about that. Yeah.
me too. This is not an unraveled podcast, but I have issues with it. But you might have issues with this. It's the Big 12.
Okay.
So I have TCU versus Baylor. I'm going with
Okay.
Baylor. I'm going with
Okay.
Baylor to win it. I need to know, am I picking this just because you're a TCU fan and I want to say, oh, I wonder what Melissa will say. Am I picking this because we had Talia Scott on here and I just really love watching her play? Or am I just picking this because like there's something else out there that's telling me like we've seen TCU in some close games just kind of give them away? And are they going to be able to close it? So I need to know, am I wrong here? Am I standing on any legs? Or how do you feel as our resident TCU person and Big 12 person?
So here's what I think is going to happen. I am not flying up till Saturday morning because I too have a job and have to work and can't be for the entire tournament. Although I would love to be. Um, I am concerned about TCU getting past Saturday. I'm very confident they're going to get past Friday because I talked to Marta after the game and I was like, Marta, here's the deal. I can't make it till Saturday. Will you do me a solid and make sure you guys take care of business Friday night? Because I don't want to fly up there for no reason. She's like, Melissa, for you, we got you. We got you. I think it's not just for me. I don't know. It's hard to tell. So should TCU advance on Friday, they're going to see probably Oklahoma State or Texas Tech
Hmm.
in game two. And I think that both of those teams, Oklahoma State lost to TCU, Texas Tech beat TCU. I know they would love a rematch. I know TCU wants that rematch Friday with Utah as a get right game. And Tech has fallen off a little bit. If it's Oklahoma State, would not be surprised whatsoever if they pull off the upset over TCU because I think they're just going to want it more. And TCU's kind of in that similar position. They're playing to host in Fort Worth and to be seated in the Fort Worth bracket. That's the only thing they really have left to prove at this point. They're not going to be a three. They're a 3 seed. They're not going to be a 2 seed. There's no potential way, and they're not going to drop to a 4. So I don't know that they have as much to play for. And it was interesting because in talking to Mark Campbell last night after the game, I thought last year they were very much, no, we're going up to Kansas City to win, and I think they're still going up to Kansas City to win, but it doesn't seem to be as desperate as it felt like a year ago. So I don't know. I think the players really want it. The players talked openly. Marta will always tell you she wants to win every game. She's a dog. But I like your Baylor pick, and here's the other thing I'll say about this, and obviously I could make this a TCU podcast, but I have one of those. I think, and this is no disrespect to Baylor whatsoever, but in both of those matchups, the thing that I have noticed is I think TCU is a much better team top to bottom than Baylor this year. And I don't think that's disrespectful. I think that's just a fact. But
Mm-hmm.
the shots Talia Scott hit in that fourth quarter, just off balance, Dono all over her, Taylor Bigby all over her, one-legged, fadeaway three-pointer, side steps. Like, she is such a big time shot maker that I do think she can shoot Baylor into the championship game. I think Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, and TCU, some combination of the two of those get there. I would not be shocked at all if TCU did not win the tournament championship. So I don't hate, I mean, I hate your pick of Baylor because I don't want Baylor to have nice things. But I do think that Talia Scott deserves that net cutting moment. If it can't be TCU, and as long as TCU is not losing to Baylor in the championship game, I will be cheering for Baylor the rest of the way.
I like it. I like it. I did struggle with my pick between TCU and Oklahoma State because the
Yeah.
same thing. They have 5 players scoring double figures,
Yeah.
and they're
They're
having the
tough.
most points per game in program history. So shout out JC Hoyt for that, their
Yeah.
coach there.
They're playing
But
great.
the one stat there, they're 1-4 against top 30 teams this year. So 32-point loss versus WVU, 22-point loss to Oklahoma. So that does look good for TCU to be getting there. So when you do arrive, Marta can come through on her promise.
Yep.
And
Thanks,
I
Marta.
did, we haven't had any promises from these teams, but you did pose a good question here in our rundown, Melissa, and that is, are there any mid majors that can win their tournament and also win a game in March Madness? So I have my answer, but I'd love to know what yours is.
I mean, I'm obviously like I've become such a Richmond Spiders fan because I just became such a Maggie Dugan fan, and I think when you have a player that I had no problem with the transfer portal. I'm so happy players are getting played. I'm so happy these women are able to market themselves and show their worth at the collegiate level. So I'm not like saying this is a negative, but it's so cool because it's so rare to see a Maggie Dugan stay at a mid-major program for all 4 years. And I think we've seen historically her play great basketball in the biggest moments. And I think that even though this hasn't maybe been the dominant season that they anticipated as a team, she's playing the best basketball of her career. She's improved in pretty much every statistical category. She'll be A-10 player of the year. And I want to see her get to March. And if she does, I have zero doubt that the Spiders will win at least one game. I would not be shocked if she just goes absolutely insane and wills them into a second win, depending on what the matchups are. I love her game. I don't know if they have the depth to get past a home site seed, but I think Richmond and to that point too, if they get two teams in, which again the A-10 should get two teams in, Rhode Island is gonna mess with a lot of people. That
Hmm.
style they play, they're going to really mess with a lot of people. They're going to be hard to scout and hard to prepare for. And if they win a first game, if you have to get them on a short turnaround, that could be not fun for a host side team.
Yeah, I think A10, and we can kind of swing into our next question too. I'll tie it all together. I promise. I promise. But yeah, I think both Rhode Island and Richmond can both make the tournament, and if they do, I would love it. If they're, I'm not a bettor. I don't advocate for sports betting, anything like that. But there would have to be astronomical numbers for it to be like, okay, Rhode Island and Richmond both make it to the round of 32 out of the A10. It'd be very interesting to see what they look like. Both teams I could see advancing, as well as a couple other teams. You touched on Richmond. I was going to also, but you kind of covered them pretty well there. I want to talk about Princeton. Princeton is a team I could see winning a game. They're synonymous with March Madness. I'm a big fan of Madison St. Rose.
Did you see?
73.
You saw the news today, right?
Oh no, what happened?
She's entering the portal.
Madison is.
And again, this was just a social media tweet,
Oh my
but
God, I did not see that.
entering with a no contact tag, and it was from Talia Goodman, so I think it's legit. So, but yeah,
Oh,
she is entering the
yeah.
portal. So, will
Oh my
she
God.
play?
She won't. And you know what? That's fine because I'm going to keep this in here. I could say, hey, Melissa, we're just going to record over this spot. No, no, no. That's okay because you know what?
Breaking sad news to you on live on air. I'm sorry.
You are. And I really enjoy you because you edit these podcast posts. I really just want to scream an F bomb right now to make you go and post and just bleep it out. But I'm
I wouldn't
not
bleep
going
it.
to
I
do
just
that.
put the adult rating on it. We're fine.
Well, fuck it. I'm so mad that Madison St. Rose is not playing. I'm still sticking with Princeton now, especially they have just even more to play for. I just
Mm.
have to update my breakdown of Princeton in the aforementioned article I'm writing for the Athletic. So that makes me very upset. They have never they've been to the tournament every year since 2018, but they haven't advanced to they haven't escaped the second round. So I'd like to see them do that. I was going to say the senior led team is the one that could do it, but now that Madison is leaving, I guess not. I'm glad she's happy. I'm glad she's healthy, and I'm glad
Yeah.
she gets to
This
play where
this is
she
when
needs
it's
to
a
play.
bummer though, right? When you have
It
a
is.
team and it's the same thing we've seen this in football playoffs too, the NCAA, but like I wish that you like if you're gonna announce it, like wait like till after like you're still in season. And but
Yeah.
with the no contact tag means that whoever she's going to has said, "Hey, we want you to shut it down." Like that's a guarantee. So
I'm
I have some guesses, but
it
I
has to
think
be similar to like Caitlin Chen whenever she left Princeton. She got her degree and just said, hey, I'm gonna hoop. Why have one more year? Let me go. I'm gonna go to UConn. I got my degree from Princeton. I'm
yeah.
good.
I'm
Let me
sure
try to win a ship. So
would not be surprised if she's following in the footsteps directly to Stores either.
yeah, I wouldn't either. And more people need to see her game. So I'm excited
Yeah,
for her to
it's
get a
great.
bigger platform, but it still sucks. And the other team now, the wind is taken out of my sails here, but they're Fairfield Stags.
I was gonna
Were you?
yes. Yeah.
Nice. I have them for a later segment too that I'm going to drop in there
Awesome.
because they are great to watch. They have only lost one game since December 7th, starting off that streak with a win against the Richmond Spiders. So, tying it all together there, I could see them win a game in the tournament. It would be awesome to see. And Melissa, something that wasn't too awesome to see was the top 16 that came out. I mean, it was, don't get me wrong, it's great, but right away we're just like, what are we doing, selection committee? Because I'm just gonna say Iowa, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing having Iowa that high? To me, it made no sense at all. Melissa texts me, he's like, what do you think about the Iowa rating? And I'm like, huh, I disagree with it. Let's talk about it on the pod because you and we have an idea for our top 16 instead. So we did this maybe 3, 4 weeks ago when USA Today's Megan Hall was on the program. We went over our top 16 as they were released initially. But now that they're out again, we want to touch on them again. So, Melissa, do you want to take it back so that we can go over them four at a time? We can do it quickly because I know we have some other segments to get to as well as our interview with Michigan State senior Grace
Yeah.
VanSlooten. So let's go ahead and look at our top 16, starting with those top four that you have.
Yeah, I mean, to me, and again, no disrespect to UConn, it's a coin flip, but I think the grind of the Big Ten schedule, I'm giving it to UCLA as the number one overall seed. I don't know that it really matters that much as long as you're one of those top four. That's all that matters. I have zero problem with UConn as number two. I agree. South Carolina is three, and then that coin flip between Texas and Vanderbilt. I'm giving it to Texas right now, with the right to change my mind after this weekend. That's my top four.
I have almost the same, but I have UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, and Texas. So more than okay with that. Again, yeah, I think it's you're rewarding the undefeated season there for UConn overall. I think UCLA would deserve number one, but yeah, I think that's how it's going to play out. We're gonna go 5, 6, 7, 8 here, and I'm gonna go with Vandy 5, LSU 6, Michigan 7, and Duke number 8.
I am honestly right there with you. I was just kind of vacillating between back and forth because I just needed to look at sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought there. I needed to look at Iowa's schedule really quickly and I needed to look at Oklahoma's schedule. Those were the two that I was like, because Oklahoma, I feel like is probably properly rated in the top 16 and like overrated in the AP poll. Which
Yeah,
I think is so fascinating to me. So yeah, I have zero disagreements with that. Listen, again, Iowa is a really solid team. I do not think they should be the number 6 seed in the NCAA tournament. So yeah, I am like for like with you on those next four.
And yeah, after that we can go 9 through 12 here. I have the TCU Horned Frogs, number
Oh,
9,
thank you.
followed by Iowa at number 10. I'll give them some love. Louisville at 11 and Oklahoma at 12.
Yeah, I have a really hard time with that 12 spot. I would put TCU at 10. I don't have a problem with that. I think slide Louisville right ahead of them. Absolutely. I still kind of feel like, again, like Ohio State's a little low, but I don't think I can move them into that next 12.
Hmm.
And so then it kind of becomes in that Oklahoma, Maryland, Michigan State, and I think I would go Oklahoma 12 as well. Their wins look really good, that they cover up some of those kind of like little brain fart moments that program has had.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. I kept thinking the same thing about Ohio State. I'm like, no, they should be there. But as I kept looking, I'm like, I can't quite get them into that spot. So yeah, I'm totally with you. And to round it out here with 13 through 16, I have Maryland Terrapins, who I've come around on, Ohio State, Michigan State, and UNC, North Carolina, to round it out at number 16 for me.
I'm gonna move Ohio State up a little bit for you. I'm gonna go Michigan State, Ohio State, Maryland, and then I'm gonna keep Minnesota in these top 16. And again, like UNC is a great pick. I think again it's really a coin flip, and I think conference tournament could play in for probably both of those two programs. Whether it should or not is a different conversation. But I just think the Minnesota story is so good, and
Hmm.
they've just really been consistent for the most part. And so I'm going to give them a slight nod over UNC. If UNC goes and win the ACC tournament, then yeah, 100% they deserve to be a host seed for sure.
Yeah, it's. I think a lot is going to change if we record this next week and we have our top 16 after seeing the big conference tournaments
Mhm.
change. Then we will definitely probably have some movers and shakers throughout here. And somebody who loves to move and shake down the post, especially, is Grace VanSlooten. We've spoken about it a few times. This is our favorite Hooper's favorite Hooper. She joined us to chat. If you notice, my background's a little different. I was at the beach, but damn it, I was going to record no matter what. Grace was wonderful to chat with as they get ready for the Big Ten tournament. And she talks about her future as a WNBA player as well. So let's send it over to Grace and we'll catch you on the backside. And joining us now on the next woman up, fresh off a dominating performance on senior night, a multi-time Cheryl Miller Watchlist nominee, a three-time gold medal winner, and someone climbing up the WNBA draft boards, Michigan State senior Grace VanSlooten. Grace, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to have you on here, and yeah, we'll get right into our conversation because you and Michigan State, both are a person and a player we've been wanting to talk about more on the show. So we're so happy to finally make it happen. So we'll just get started. Everyone has that moment where the game goes from a hobby to an obsession. When was the first time that you realized you truly love the game of basketball?
I think for me, it was around seventh grade. I started, I think, in third grade, and, my dad was my coach. I was kind of doing it because my older sister did it. And, soccer was actually my main sport for a while. So I think around seventh grade, I kind of realized, like, basketball could really be my thing. And I decided to choose that over soccer. And I'm, just really glad that I did.
I got to ask a follow up on that, Grace. Then when did you hit your growth spurt?
My big growth spurt I didn't hit really until like eighth grade.
Okay.
I was still obviously like taller than everybody, but yeah, I really grew a lot from like eighth grade to freshman year of high school.
Yeah, I had a Christmas break where I grew 3 inches.
Oh my
I'm not,
gosh.
yeah, I'm not the athlete that you are, but that's when I was
Yeah,
like, oh, I guess I'm a basketball player now. Like
yeah,
that's just kind of how it went. Um,
absolutely.
but it's not enough just to have that growth spurt, right? Like there's a difference between being tall and good and being elite. Was there a specific game or tournament, maybe in your middle school or high school years, where you started to look around the gym and think, I might be the best player out here?
Yeah, so I think it was like around seventh grade too. We had the rule where like you were able to play 4 quarters for like, your grade. And then if you had an extra quarter left over, you could play up with the eighth graders. And so like I would, sometimes play that extra quarter and I just kind of realized like, I put in the work and it was kind of showing. And then when I started AAU, I played, pretty much the highest grade level. So I would say probably in seventh or eighth grade is when I kind of realized like, I could really be good at this thing and kind of make it my, I guess, kind of make it my job now.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to high school a little bit here. You carried the weight of being a five-star prospect and McDonald's All-American. Looking back now, how did you navigate the expectations and the noise that comes with being a top of a recruiting class like that? I mean, if you look at that McDonald's All-American class from 2022, it's a who's who right there. You have Kiki Rice, you have yourself, Ashlyn Jackson, you have Dariana Little Page Buggs, you have Flau'jae Johnson, you have Gabby Hawkins. I could keep on going, but we would run out of time. So, how do you kind of manage with all those expectations that you had with of you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can definitely be heavy on the shoulders. It can be a little nerve-wracking, but I've kind of just found the most peace and just like working out, just really getting those reps in so that I have that confidence when I, go out and play in front of all these people or I'm playing, against these really good competitors. I just find like, I find most of my confidence throughout getting reps in and getting extra workouts in. So that's kind of how I've handled it. But obviously, yeah, it is nerve-wracking and it's a lot of pressure, but I think it's a good thing. I think it's something to be grateful for, that you've worked this hard to earn that type of pressure, that many eyes on you. So that's kind of how I look at it.
You talk about pressure and eyes on you. You put a lot of eyes on you when you made the decision to finish your high school career at IMG Academy. I have a former student who's playing baseball there right now, and I've heard that's such a professional environment. How
hmm
did kind of that? What was the driving factor behind the decision to make that leap to IMG? And then how did that almost pro style environment kind of prepare you for that next level in Power Five basketball?
Yeah, I think the main decision was just I wanted my last year of high school to be competitive. And IMG is you play really good competitors, so that was a big thing for me. And then also, like you said, it's like pro style. So, you go to class 3 to 4 hours, and then you're pretty much working out the rest of the day. And that's kind of something I was looking for. I was looking for being in a room with people who had like the same mindset, same goals, same ambitions as me. And I'm like really grateful that I did that. I think it really prepared me well for college. I learned to live on my own. I'm from Ohio, so being all by myself in Florida was, definitely an adjustment. But I think in the end that helped me go all the way out to Oregon. And kind of, I think I thrived there for my, first 2 years just as an individual. I learned how to do my laundry at IMG. I learned how to, kind of navigate everything honestly on my own. So I think it was really huge for my development, both as a person and a player.
So whenever you went from IMG to college out to Oregon, was this still kind of a shock to the system a little bit for you, or was it pretty like seamless transition for you going from there to there?
I would say it was pretty seamless, but obviously Oregon is a lot farther than Florida. Florida was a quick, 2.5 hour flight for my family, and Oregon's a bit harder to get to. And then you also have the time difference, so that was tough to navigate too. But I think going to IMG definitely helped it become pretty seamless. Obviously there are challenges, but um, you know, I think I handled it pretty well.
We touched on your Olympic experience and you've talked about how you really seek out that highest level of competition. You've represented the USA both on the U19 and the America teams. When you're in the gym where everyone is an All-American or a future pro, what does that do for your competitive drive?
Yeah, I think it only heightens it. I think going to those USA tryouts, everybody is trying to get a spot on the roster, so it's extremely competitive. And you got to rise to the challenge or else you won't make the team. So I think it's how, you really differentiate yourself. I think when I go to USA tryouts, I try and just, be a really good teammate, focus on, supporting others and, knowing the plays and really using my voice to try and stand out. So, that's worked for me so far. But yeah, I mean the competitiveness, it's the highest form of competition I've ever, taken part in. And obviously super grateful for that.
Like we said, you've competed against the best in the world, and the international circuit allows you to live and travel with them. Because if you missed at the beginning, you're a three-time gold medal winner there, Grace. So with the international circuit, who was a competitor who you quote unquote love to hate on the court, but became close with during your time at USA basketball?
I would say first probably Gianna Neepkins from UCLA. she is just a knockdown shooter. So it's like obviously on the court when you're playing against her, you don't want to see her. But off the court during our past USA experience, I think we became pretty close. So it was good to see her when, they came out and played us here in Michigan. So that was fun, and I think I've, made a good friend that our paths will cross a lot, I'm sure. But yeah, she's definitely someone you love to hate.
Yeah, we had Gianna on the show a couple of weeks ago, and it was really fun talking to her. So that's a great poll. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely not someone you want to see pulling up on your
absolutely
court,
not.
right? Something you do want to see though are those gold medals, and we ask all of the gold medalists we've had a chance to talk to, where do you keep yours?
I keep mine in my closet.
Really?
Yeah,
Got to get those things out there. Come
I know,
on.
I know. I just never have. I just keep them all on, they're all three on the same hanger, and I just keep them at the front of my closet. And yeah, no, I don't know. I don't
Grace,
know why.
if I had a gold medal, I'd be wearing it every single day. I would
Oh
be
my
Yeah.
gosh.
teaching and walking. If I had three of them, I'd be wearing all three of them. Like I'm just
I
It,
saying.
know.
it's
I
it's
know I
such a flex.
should.
Yeah, they'd be everywhere. Just like, oh yeah, have you seen this? By the way, have you seen this? Oh, have you seen my gold? Yes, we've seen your gold medals. We know, but it's
See it
three of them.
again.
Such a flex. Yes. And well, we spoke before we started here that Grace, I am a big Oregon Ducks fan. So I was very excited to have you on the show. And but transitioning from Oregon back to the Midwest and Michigan State, it's a significant move. And I was looking back at your top 10 schools that you had, and I noticed Michigan State wasn't one of them, like whenever you were coming out of high school. So what
Mhm.
was it about Coach Freilich's vision and the Spartan culture that made that feel like the right next step for you in your career?
Yeah, I think a big part of it was she was my first call actually when I entered the transfer portal. So I think I went in at like 10:13, and then 10:14 I was on the phone with her. So I think that spoke a lot to, how much they really wanted me, and that's what I wanted in a college was, I wanted to go somewhere where I was wanted, obviously. And then, I took a visit and I just loved it. I loved all the teammates. Everybody seemed really genuine, and, not to mention it's 2 hours from home. So I just really felt like it was, the perfect choice.
And just a quick follow up with that, I was about to mention, it is a lot closer to your home in Toledo. Has that
Mhm.
allowed kind of your family to come up and watch you more?
Oh yeah, they've been at every home game, so that's been amazing. Actually, just recently we played at Penn State, and my oldest brother's never seen me play in college, and he was able to, come to that game, which was really cool. So, just getting to have my family at games has been huge. It was a pretty rare occasion where they were at games in Oregon, so that's definitely been different. But yeah, I've been so happy that they've been able to be there.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'm down here in DFW and Big 12 country, and I cover TCU as well. And one of my favorite things is always talking to athletes that change conferences because I think in
Hmm.
women's basketball, especially, there's such a difference in style from one conference to the next. And you were there in the Pac-12, RIP,
I know.
long live the Pac-12. And now you're playing in the Big Ten and a very different looking Big Ten than even when you would have started school at Oregon. What have you noticed in the difference between playing in the Big Ten versus the Pac-12, or just in general, how difficult is that Big Ten grind, game in and game out?
Yeah, well, I think the Big Ten is just so physical. I think it's really big girl basketball, and everybody's so strong, and you gotta I gotta guard some really big girls in the Big Ten, um, which is definitely challenging. But also, I think the Big Ten is just the most competitive league for women's basketball this year. Absolutely, I think we're every team is just so good, but also anyone can beat anybody on any given night, which I think is just so much fun to play in. So. I think the Pac-12 was a lot more, I'd say up and down, a lot more versatile. And, Big Ten is just really physical, really competitive, and both are so much fun. So, yeah, like you said, RIP, the Big 12 or the Pac-12, I love playing in it.
Don't
But
you kill off my Big 12 yet, Grace?
I
Come
Nah.
know,
on, we're
not
hanging
Big
on.
12, not Big 12, not, no. But yeah, I know, I've loved being in the Big 10 too. And obviously, like I said, a lot of the away games are close to home. So it's been pretty fun.
RIP to Pac-12 After Dark. It was my favorite time as a basketball fan on the East Coast.
I
But
know.
Grace, it was fantastic. It makes me so sad. I could talk about it forever, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about you. And one thing I want to talk about is your footwork. Just because like your high IQ is known, your soft touch is known, your ability to go after the rebounds, but the footwork in the paint and the high key is something that really stands out to me a lot whenever I watch you play. Is there a player who you try to model that aspect of your game after?
Honestly, not really. I think it's kind of just come with, so many workouts and I try to watch a lot of basketball, so obviously I think it comes from that. But no, I think it just kind of comes from workouts and understanding the game of basketball and stuff like that. I think it started from a pretty young age. My trainer, is had me working on pivots and different moves in the keys, so I think it just started at a young age and, just kind of stuck with me.
You've talked a lot about your work ethic, obviously, and how much you work out and how much time you put into developing your craft. If I were to go back and watch, your first couple of games as a freshman at Oregon to what you're doing now, night in and night out, what's the biggest difference that we would see in your game or the area of growth you're most proud of over these last several years?
Yeah, I think I would say I'm just a lot more physical now, a lot stronger, which I think naturally comes with 4 years of college basketball. But I would say I'm probably most proud of how, physical I can be and kind of really stand my ground against maybe those bigger, stronger physical players. So I'd say that's where I'm, most proud of.
And as you begin to wind down your final season of collegiate basketball, WNBA conversation is obviously inevitable. When you look at the current pro game, where do you see your skill set fitting in best?
You mean like which spot or like position?
Yeah, just what position? And like obviously at the WNBA, there's a lot of five outsets kind of trying to spread the floor. So how do you see your game kind of integrating in best with the current landscape?
Yeah, I would say I'd probably be most comfortable being like a stretch four. I think that would be my preferred position. I know I'm definitely not big enough for a five in the league, so I think stretch four would be a lot of fun. That's kind of how I used to play at Oregon, and back in high school. So it'd be fun to get back to doing, more of driving from the perimeter and, pull up jump shots, stuff like that. So I think that's where I would fit in best for sure.
Kind of on that note, as you start to think about the future, what are a couple areas that you're really like obsessed with improving that make you the most ready to not only get to the WNBA, but to be an instant impact player?
Yeah, I think it's super important to keep up with your ball handling. I think that would be huge. And then, obviously 3-point shooting would be a very big growth improvement for me. So definitely going to focus on that. Trying to make the league and everything like that. You got to be able to stretch the floor. So those are definitely my, two most important improvements, I'd say.
All right, Grace, we have one more, and then we're going to head into the rapid fire section of this show. But when people talk about your impact on Michigan State basketball 5 years from now, what do you hope that narrative is?
I hope that people just remember how hard I played. I think that's kind of what I pride myself on is if my shots aren't falling or, stuff like that, at least you can play hard. You can do other things on the floor rather than scoring. So I just want to be remembered as a hard worker, leaving it all on the court. And, I'd be really happy if, that's what people remember.
Love that answer. That is fantastic. And Grace, we're going to put you on the hot seat now with some quick
All right.
rapid fire questions. Does that work?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. What is your favorite gym to play in besides East Lansing?
I liked playing in Purdue this year.
Good answer.
That's a
Very underrated answer. I
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's a
that.
great facility, great historic facility.
it is.
What's the toughest individual matchup you faced in your college career?
I think Cameron Brink was pretty tough.
That's
She
a good
was
one.
she stuffed my shot a lot of times, so she
That's
was she
awesome.
was pretty tough to guard.
We'll see if we can get some revenge at the next level for you there against Cameron. What is your go-to pregame meal?
Just some chicken, some rice, and then some broccoli. That's pretty much it.
We've talked about how we need to give more love to Michigan State. I'm going to give you an opportunity to give love to a teammate. Who's the next woman up that people should be paying attention to on the Spartans?
Ooh, let's see. I think Rashunda Jones. She goes by
Mm,
Spider. But she has been great for us this year. She's been so pivotal in our success. Um, so she's actually a transfer from Purdue. But yeah, I would say she's next. She's done great this season.
listen, if you've got Spida as a nickname, then you're probably going to ball out a little bit, right? That's a
Exactly.
pretty
Yeah,
good
you have
basketball
to.
nickname.
You got to.
Shout out to Donovan Mitchell there. I love that.
Yeah.
Staying in Ohio, actually, Grace, have you watched The Paper, The Office reboot? And
I
if
haven't,
so, oh, you haven't?
but I love The Office, so I've been meaning to.
Because it's based in Toledo. So I'm
Oh my
very
gosh.
Yeah, that's
I
where it's
didn't
based
know
out of. The
that.
paper is based in Toledo. I was going to ask, what it got right and what it got wrong. I've driven through Toledo when I lived in Cleveland to go up to Detroit and everything, but I've never spent a lot of time there. So
Mhm.
I'm very interested to see what you think about it once you get around to watching it.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it now. I had no idea that it was in Toledo, but The Office is my all-time favorite show, so I'll have to watch
S-
it.
So since you didn't
Yeah.
have an answer to that, then I have to ask you real quick, who is your favorite character in The Office and what's your favorite episode?
Oh, that's a tough one. I struggle between picking between Jim and Dwight just because, well, and Michael. I mean, they're all like different answers for like, so many different reasons, but all-time favorite, I just have to go with Michael, I think. He's just classic. And then my favorite episode would probably have to be Casino Night. It's like the
Oh,
end
it's
of
a good one.
season 2.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And that's when like Jim and Pam finally kind of get together, and I was always rooting for them. So that holds like a really special place in my heart. I just remember watching it in middle school and just loving that episode. So I would say that's my favorite.
It's a good one. That's a classic. I know it's definitely not Scott's Tots because I still cannot
Oh
watch
my
that
gosh, I
episode. It's the
skip it. I swear
cringiest.
I skip it every single time. I
Yeah,
can't
it's
do it.
awful. It still brings me pain to think about.
Yeah.
If you could steal, you said you watch a lot of basketball, right? And so if you could
Mhm.
steal, it says, I was going to say WNBA player, but I'm going to open it up. If you could steal a skill from any individual player out there, what would you steal and why?
I think I would steal. Ooh, that's tough. I'm just gonna go with one of my teammates, Kennedy Blair. Her passing ability is
Mm.
it's awesome. She's able to see the court so well, so I think that would be pretty good to have.
Shout out to you for keeping it in-house there with Michigan State. Love
Yeah.
that. I mentioned, I'm an Oregon Ducks fan, so I need to know. I need to take you back to Eugene, just real
hmm
quick. What's your favorite memory from your time there, or your favorite place that you'd recommend somebody visit if they got to Eugene?
Well, I'll give you my favorite restaurant. I actually took some of my teammates when we played out there this year. It's called Sabai. It's Thai food, and
Mm,
it is amazing. It's like the best Thai food you'll ever have. So I would definitely recommend there.
love it.
When you're making those long road trips out to the West Coast, part of the Big Ten, are you listening to podcasts or music? And what's your number one right now?
I listen to music and pretty much anything country.
Okay.
So I like Zach Bryan, Morgan Wallen, any type of classic country I'm a big fan of.
Love that. We'll get you out of here on this one. If someone has never watched you play before, what's one thing you'd want them to know about your game?
Let's see. I think I would probably just want them to know, I think I'm really fundamental. So I think you're not gonna maybe see any of the flashiest stuff, but I'm gonna get the work done and I'm gonna be physical and run the floor and just kind of do my role, I guess, play my role and pass the open teammates and do all that type of stuff. So might not be the flashiest thing you'll ever see, but I'm definitely gonna play hard and I'm gonna work hard and I hope that's fun enough for people to watch.
And it is fun enough for people to watch. And you played your role well here in the third seat on the Next One Up podcast. Grace, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We can't wait to see what the future holds in store for you. And we'll be keeping an eye on you all in the tournament.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and we are back. Melissa, I feel like a broken record, but Grace was absolutely wonderful. It was great hearing from her. We told her all season, like, hey, we've said how well Michigan State is playing. We haven't given you enough attention. So we wanted to make it up to the Spartan fans out there and have her on the program, and she did not disappoint.
Yeah, she was great. I know we say this every week, like talk about broken record, but every time we talk to another player, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like my new favorite player. And
Mhm.
I think that's what I love about the women's game. And I tell my friends this all the time that, and the people that I interact with around TCU is if you don't think you like women's basketball, come to a game, talk to the players, go to an event, sit down with them, go back courtside and watch how long they sit there and sign autographs and give out hugs and give high fives. Like the women in this sport are so accessible and meaningfully so. And I think Grace is just another example of that, just so personable and so kind-hearted, an absolute dog on the court, but
Mhm.
just a wonderful person to talk to off of it. And I mean, there's not a person that we've talked to that we haven't like hung up with them and immediately gone like, oh my gosh, how awesome is she? What a great human being she is. And I think that's like been one of the coolest things about doing this show is just getting to see these women in a different way. And then, getting to see Talia Scott has not been happy to see me. I don't think either time I've seen her since we recorded, obviously, but getting to see Talia Scott, getting to see, I don't want to spoiler alert, but one of our future guests, I'm going to see this weekend, hopefully. Well, I don't know if hopefully, because I guess they're going to potentially play TCU Friday night. So I might not see Lanny White, but we've got Lanny White from Utah coming up here in a couple of weeks. And oh my gosh, like get off the call with her. And I'm just thinking, who cares how good of a basketball player is? This is an incredible human. And so, yeah, Grace was awesome to talk to. Really enjoyed that. Glad we got to show Michigan State some love and really looking forward to seeing what she and that team can do in March.
Yeah, it was awesome revisiting her high school years, going to IMG, taking that little travel with her down there, as well as just looking at that loaded McDonald's All-American
Yeah.
roster that she was on. And of course, we had to continue because it's really weird. We just keep talking to gold medalist after gold medalist
Yeah.
after gold medalist and figuring out where they all keep theirs. And I hope Grace understands I don't hold it against you from leaving the University of Oregon. It is okay. We still like you on here. We still love
Power
having you
on.
there. You are the most likely to succeed if we were doing senior superlatives, but we're not. We're doing 2025, 2026 season superlatives. Instead, a fun little list that you put on here to close the show, Melissa. So, do you want to kick it
I'm going to
off?
throw these at you. Yeah, I'm going to throw
Oh,
these at you. Yeah,
I'm on the hot seat. All
100%.
right,
Yeah,
let's
I'm going to
go.
put you on the hot seat. You put me on the hot seat earlier, so I'll have some opinions, I'm sure, from here and there. But yeah, no, I'm gonna make you sit down. All right, Michael. First superlative: role player to superstar. Which player took the biggest leap from just another nice player on a team to somebody that we're all talking about?
I stewed over this one because there are many players. I was like, okay, we could go with Jordan Lee because she really stepped it up. We talk, go with Lonnie White, who has elevated herself to a WNBA prospect. I'm going with Jelani Cambridge out of Ohio State.
I love
She
that.
has just taken that Kelsey Mitchell type leap whenever she played there, just to the next level. To everybody is scheming around her, planning for her, and she's somebody that I just look at and I'm just like, she is the real deal in every single way. The way she can just get to the hoop at will. Yeah, she's a superstar.
Yeah, I like your Jordan Lee and your Lanny White, both of those. I think Jordan Lee would probably be my pick on that one. And I think that we haven't even seen what a star she's going to be. Obviously, she's got a lot of good basketball ahead of her. Which player, in your opinion, has the deepest offensive bag? You could take this a lot of directions, right? But which way are you going to go with it?
I really could. Like, I can think about Audie Crooks because we have a award named after her. She also added that post turnaround fade shot. I could go back to Jelani Cambridge if I want to, but instead, I'm gonna go just with the best pure scorer in basketball, and that's Michaela Blake's.
Yeah.
It's just like, to me, yeah, she isn't a one person show there in Vandy, but you cannot guard her. Just a consecutive 30 game streak that she has. She can score at all three levels. So yeah, she's my pick there.
I'm gonna go with the Homer pick, and I'm gonna say Olivia Miles. Like, yeah, if you want to go score, absolutely Michaela Blake's zero argument with you there. But if you look at the flash and the style that Olivia Miles plays with, and I think the thing that I really have noticed the last week of the season, she has really rubbed off on her teammates. Like I'm watching Donovan Hunter do these like behind the back hezzy moves, and I'm like, Donna, where did you get that? And it's very clear that she learned it like watching Olivia Miles. And so I think that when that's kind of contagious, she still like she whipped a pass over Clara Silva, who is 6'7's head yesterday, at a speed that like I'm shocked no one on the Baylor bench broke a nose because of how quickly that thing. So there's still a little bit of that with Liv, but we love her for it. And just her series of moves, her 3-point shootings really come on late. Her no look passing, it just court vision is elite. So yeah, I think both of those players, man, could you imagine them on the same WNBA roster playing an All-Star game together in a couple of years?
There are quite a few WNBA GMs who would love to make that realization come true.
That leads us right into our next question because you talk about what WNBA GMs love. And when we look at some of the rookie salaries that are being thrown around there as part of the new collective bargaining agreement, they're going to love somebody who can come in and contribute immediately. And so, Michael, I got to ask you, who's the most pro-ready senior out of this class?
To me, this would be an award like the superlative would be named like the Rakia Jackson Award because to me, she was the most pure ready player to come out in her draft class 2024. You can go with Olivia Miles here, but I'm going to go with Gianna Neepkins. I
Okay.
think she can step in right away. She's shown the ability to be more than just a 3-point scorer, more than just a shooter. She can put the ball on the floor. She is a very underrated defender and a fantastic leader out there. So I think she's somebody who is the most pro ready right now as we enter the WNBA draft.
I like that one. I'm going to go with AZ Fudd. I think she has the highest floor and still a
Hmm.
really, really high ceiling. I think that she's an experienced vet. She's been through it. Obviously, she's dealt with some injury issues in the past, but she seems to have put those fully behind her. To me, she's going to be very likely a day one starter, depending on where she ends up. And we'll talk about that in another episode because I do not want to open that bag tonight.
No, we do not want to do that.
All right, moving on. Listen, everybody loves a good teammate. We've talked to some awesome teammates, some women I would love to play basketball with. Who is the player you would most want to play with if you were playing women's college basketball?
Man, I would want to run through a wall for Nyla Harris. I would want to just pick Lonnie White's brain about life. I want to see the evolution of Jordan Lee and Donovan Hunter as leaders. But for me, I'm going to be selfish. I want to play with the best of the best. So give me Sarah Strong. I want to just be her teammate because she can do so many things on the floor and just make me look good and hide my deficiencies.
She also just seems like a really sweet person.
She
Just
does. She
a
just seems
really
so
nice
kind.
kid off the floor.
Yeah,
Another person who's just seems like a really nice kid off the floor, but's an absolute bulldog on it is my pick. That's Rory Harmon.
love
I'm
that.
going to get the ball. I am going to
Hmm.
constantly get the ball. You know what I'm never going to be doing when she has the ball in her hands? I'm never going to be sprinting back on defense because she doesn't turn it over.
Yep.
So Rory
I
Harmon is
love
my
that.
pick. She's gonna make things really, really easy for me. And again, it's just another one of those people that you want to be in a locker room with that you know is going to be a great leader, but it's also going to laugh with you and cut up with you. And I love that about her.
Absolutely. That's a great pick. Rory's a great person.
All right, talk about greatness. And I think I already spoiled my pick a little bit earlier, but which player is most likely to get red hot and carry their team beyond expectations in March?
You know, I'm going to go and I kind of teased it in my ACC pick. I'm going to go with Hannah Hidalgo with Notre Dame. We see
That's
the
such a
way
good
that
pick.
she can just take over game offensively and defensively. She just averages about 7 steals per game. It's unbelievable. So we know like she wanted this to be her team. Hannah, this is your team now. Sonia Citron is gone. Olivia Miles transferred. You wanted this, you got it. Now time to show up. And I think if any player can walk the walk, talk the talk, is going to be Hannah.
I love that pick. I'm gonna go with my girl Maggie Dugan. I've been a Maggie stan since day one. I had her in my first mock draft pick. And again, I'm just so honestly rooting for her. Don't even care about. I'm totally gonna be biased towards her in Richmond this next couple of weeks if she gets in the tournament. So I think Maggie can get it done. On the court, obviously we've talked about some great players. Off the court matters too. Who do you want on the aux setting the vibes in the locker room?
So I think this is going to be I could give you 100 guesses. You wouldn't guess the player.
Mm.
Because last year in Birmingham, while I was waiting to chat with them for an interview, they were sitting there talking about music. So I took this literally with who I want on the aux because I really like their music taste, and that is Brianna Preston, the backup point guard for the University of Texas. So I
Okay.
really like what she had. So I know you would not expect that
No.
at all, but I want her on the literal aux. If I want somebody just to kind of curate those vibes for me, I'm gonna go Nyla Harris. She is just such a player, such a leader, and just like makes everybody feel good about themselves. So yeah, I took it in the literal, but there's an answer for both senses there.
It's funny that you mentioned Nyla Harris because I'm going to go a different direction on UNC because I found an article from the Daily Tar Heel that
Let's
talked
go.
about who's on aux in the UNC locker room and how they're getting fired up. And it's Sydney Barker. And Sydney
Really?
is blasting some good tunes. I mean, rap, pop, R&B, a little Whitney Houston, according to the article. So I was looking at her playlist and thinking, you know what? She's got the vibes. I think we also got to say Lonnie White because her
Oh
sister is
yeah.
a really talented musician, and we were talking to her about music a little bit too, and she's got some great musical taste also. So I think either of them would be my pick.
Yeah, she went to, spoiler alert, she went to Coachella and loved it. Her sister is a talented musician. And, we like to reward people who stay at the end of the episode. I can tell you this Lonnie White is our guest next week from Utah, like we said. But I asked her, would she be a better musician or her sister a better basketball players if they had to switch places? So, a very fun question to ask Lonnie White, who is now one of my favorite humans on earth. I would run through a wall for her
Heck
again.
yeah. Heck yeah. Running through the wall would be pretty good viral content. Which team is going to give you the best viral content on TikTok or Instagram or wherever you are consuming media these days?
Great segue. Absolutely love that, Melissa. That was fantastic. I am going to go with UCLA. And just because I love watching Gianna Neekins
Yep.
learn how to dance, it is one of my favorite things in this entire world. And it's the biggest thing that I watch as far as college basketball content. The vibes there are just so funny. So I have to give to UCLA.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say UCLA, but I'm also going to say UCLA because you introduced me to Gianna Neepkins on social media, and yeah, they're delightful, they're great, and just amazing personalities. Like just a lot
Yeah.
of great personalities, a lot of veteran leadership. They're a lot of fun.
The best player to follow on that team is Charlize Ledger Walker. Let me tell you right now, her TikTok and Instagram is hilarious. She just understands the marketing aspect of it. Like we talked with Donovan Hunter in our second episode. She understands how to market herself so well and just how to draw people in. So yeah, if you haven't yet, just check out the UCLA players. They're hilarious.
Well, if you want to check out another team too, let's look at the teams that have rebuilt the most and done it successfully. Who wins Transfer Guru Coach of the Year this year? And you know what I'm going to say. So,
I, I think I do. And well, I don't know if I do because I'm going to go with Arizona State and Coach Molly
mm,
Miller. And
great call.
there's the reason for that because all five typical starters for them are transfer players and they mesh together immediately. We know like they start off red hot and they kind of dropped off a little bit, but she made Arizona State a relevant program. Again, I believe it was like the most wins in 11 years for their team. So shout out to Molly Miller just being able to bring in all those players, getting to play together so well, transferring to a bigger school, a P4 school. So yeah, Coach Molly, she has my vote. So now I'm curious about whose yours is.
I'm going to stick in the Big 12 and I'm going to go with my guy, Mark Campbell, because,
Okay.
again, like I've sat in every press conference pretty much for the last 2 seasons and to hear like to see what they've accomplished, right? This was a program that was irrelevant on the national scene. They like, and I asked it this question on Sunday night, but TCU became relevant nationally for the first time ever because they had to hold walk-on tryouts 3 years ago and forfeited multiple Big 12 games. Like I was
Yep.
getting calls and texts from every reporter I've ever met going, what the heck is going on at TCU? They became relevant a year ago because Haley Van Lith and the fact that he got a Haley Van Lith tells you like for her to believe in a program that had held walk-on tryouts a year prior and take her name and her brand and her ability to Fort Worth, that tells you a lot about what Mark Campbell is. And what we learned is Mark Campbell creates an environment where players go to find themselves and to feel fulfilled. And listening to Marta Suarez and Olivia Miles talk about coming from situations that were much more challenging for them emotionally last night after that win, and the way that they've come together. And for Olivia Miles to sit there and say, this works because we have no egos. How do you
Mm.
take players that have been as well thought of as Marta and Olivia are, and bring them to a place and ask no egos. You look at what he did with his returners. Donovan Hunter's his only player that started games last year that returned, and he said, "Hey, I need you to go play the three," and she does it. And
Mhm.
so, like, if you talk about a coach that can take different pieces and put them together and to build a beautiful tapestry. And to do it while playing at the highest level possible, nobody's doing that better than Mark Campbell. I mean, frankly, and when you hear players talk about him, you can see why so many great players have found their way to Fort Worth despite TCU women's basketball not being a player for so long. All right.
Love it.
Mid-major you least want to see in your region.
I mentioned it earlier, but I'm going with the Stags out of Fairfield. That is a team who average margin of victory per game is 20.4 points. It is a team who absolutely walloped Marist College earlier this year. I realize we're not talking about a big team here in the number 256 ranked Marist, but they beat it by 61 points.
Jeez.
That is absurd. If I had more time, I'd research how many games like that they scored more than 60 points in and of itself. But yes, I would say Fairfield is a team that I do not want to face, and they are a team that actually beat your Richmond Spiders.
They
So
did. They did.
and they lost to Iowa and UNC, and yes, were they double digit losses? Yes, each was 14 points. To me, that's a win. That's
Yeah.
Fairfield losing to a number 10 and number 14 team in the country
Yeah.
by combined 28 points. That is a win. So I do not want to see Fairfield. And congratulations to the Stags. They're just awesome.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the HN team that's not Richmond. and go with Rhode Island. Like I was saying earlier, I just think they play a style and that really kind of heavy, wide open European style that's really hard to prepare for if you haven't seen it a lot. They're going to be a tough team. They have multiple double-digit scores. They're pretty balanced. They're well coached. They're disciplined. They have some length. So I think Rhode Island's going to be a team that you really do not want to end up in your bracket. Speaking of places you don't want to end up, our final superlative is, where do you not want to end up if you're an opponent's visiting opponent, because you're facing the best home court advantage in college basketball?
So this is hard because there are so many different choices. You could go with South Carolina, knowing the environment they have there. You could go with UConn, knowing how that fan base turns up. You could go with Tennessee, knowing, like, maybe not now, but in the past. But I can't get out of my head that game that we saw for College Game Day between LSU and Texas, and just how that fan base down there in Austin was just so loud that nobody could hear anything. So I'm going to go with Texas.
I hate that pick. Only because I'm telling you, man, like, those fans show up when their teams win. Ain't nobody showing up if that team's not winning. So, I mean, we'll see.
It's very fair.
We don't know because it's been so long since they haven't been good. But I can tell you from football games in the past, that fan base is very finicky, but that's fine. That's neither here nor there. I'm going to go a little off the beaten path as well. And it's because I got to experience this in person, and I'm going to go NC State.
Okay.
Yeah, NC State to be. And the reason why is, first of all, the history of that building and Jim Valvano. And I mean, there's just so much basketball history in that place. And the arena is built like it feels straight up. Utah's kind of the same way. So the noise just sits on top of you. And there was some kid in the band who was cursing a blue streak in my right ear the entire time I was sitting in media row, because media row is like right in front of the band. And I would say, like, though I did not agree with many of the sentiments he was sharing, I loved his passion. And to see so many students packed out, and to see that place so alive and so loud, and the way things that they do with the lighting and everything is really, really cool. I was super impressed with their game day production, and I thought that their fan base was outstanding. So NC State women's basketball fans, man, y'all show up and you show out. I had a blast there, and it was one of the best environments I've ever experienced in college basketball.
They're super passionate there, and that is a great call. I do need to experience that. I have not done that myself. There are so many good environments.
Yeah. South Carolina, obviously, and UConn are like, we know they're great. Like, I'm not saying they're not the best, but like, they give us a little bit of a different taste. Like, there's some schools that are really, really building something special.
Yeah, and I think you can continue to see that with Vanderbilt too, especially with the unique setup that they have. I think they can really use that to their advantage. I am jealous because I'm 3 hours from there, so I really need to go. There's no excuse. I really want to check that out.
But it's cool. It's really, I was there for a men's game. It was weird, but it was really cool. And if as a photographer, like, being like lower like that, it was cool.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I like to see more teams kind of do that. Obviously, it's not up to them really, but yeah, I love seeing fans turning up and turning out, and we're going to see a lot more turning up and turning out as we approach Selection Sunday coming up on March 15th. So that gives us about another episode to record ahead of that, and joining us that episode is going to be Utah senior Lonnie White, who has really just been making her case for the WNBA, rising up the boards. Very interesting story with her, with starting at Utah, going to Virginia Tech, and then coming back to Utah. Just the person that she is. We kind of took a sidebar in that conversation, and we were kind of talking about our passions in life, what we're looking to do. I was like, hey, here's what my day job is. And we just started talking about that. Like, Melissa's a teacher. I work nonprofit. Lonnie wants to help the underserved communities as an attorney. So she's like, yeah, like, basketball is cool, but that's not my focus in life. That's not who I am. Looking back to Leah Scott, like, basketball is what I do. It's not who I am. And if you enjoy those kind of conversations, you will love Lonnie White. I'm telling you. Awesome. And yeah, she'll be on next week. So shout out to Grace VanSlooten for joining us this week. We're looking forward to watching her Michigan State Spartans play in the Big Ten tournament. Maybe if they meet up with Oregon will take them down, and they will get revenge for Grace leaving them. But just like Grace left my Ducks, we are going to leave you on that note. So everybody enjoy conference play for the conference tournament. We'll be back next week with Lonnie White.